So can you all see my screen?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, let me. Okay, this is great. Okay, uh, so all right. So hi, good evening. Sorry, good afternoon. It's evening here. Good afternoon. My name is Shilpa Aggarwal, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my work. And it's especially heartening to get to present it to an audience that's based in Africa, where this research was done. So this paper that I'm presenting today, this is called "Saving for Multiple Financial Needs: Evidence from Lockboxes and Mobile Money in Malawi." And this is joint work with Valentina Brelovskaya, who's now at ID Insight. She was, sorry, she was a colleague in, one second, sorry, yeah, she was a colleague in graduate school, and John Robinson, who is at UC Santa Cruz, and he's our advisor, both Valentina's and mine. Okay, so as the title suggests, this paper is about the savings effect of loan boxes and mobile money. And I've been given to understand that this group is largely interested in the mobile money aspect. So this is a digital transformation research group. So what I'm going to do is I'll present the results for both log boxes and mobile money, because, well, one, that's what the paper is, and also because I think these results are interesting. But then when I discuss some of the implications of these results, I will focus largely on mobile money. And if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt as I'm talking, and I would be happy to answer your question. All right. So also, this is my first time presenting on Zoom, so it may take me a while to figure some of these things out. So, like for instance, the raising hand and this kind of things, I'm not very good at navigating those. So please feel free to speak up. All right. So that was a lot of introduction. So without further ado, now let me get started. So the motivation for this paper is basically the observation that most people are saving towards multiple financial goals. So, for instance, currently I'm saving for buying a house. I'm also saving for my kids' education. I'm saving for retirement. And while doing all of this, I'm also setting aside some money to meet unforeseen emergencies. Uh, so, uh, so people have multiple financial needs that they're saving towards, and this isn't unique to me or unique to only some people. This is this is largely universal. So in our study context, which is in Malawi, so we worked with micro entrepreneurs in urban Malawi. The average respondent reported having 2.5 savings goals. So people were actively saving for 2.5 different needs simultaneously. Uh, Now, one question is, how do people accomplish this? So there's a lot of research that has shown that saving money is difficult in general. And this is a problem that we all face in our lives. Saving money is difficult, and it's especially challenging for the poor because of their circumstances. They have less money, and on top of that, they don't have the right devices. Their social situation is such they have pressure from extended family to share, and so on and so forth. So it's difficult for people to save. On top of that, there are these behavioral biases that also make it hard for people to save. So there's a large literature that shows saving money is difficult. And that literature also shows that one way to encourage people to save, or to make it easy for people to save money, is to create separate mental accounts for each goal. So, or rather, so this literature is largely about saving for one goal, and in that one goal, if you create a mental account for saving towards that goal, it's been shown that it's easier to save. It's easier to save money for that goal. So there's this, and that's the behavioral literature by Richard Taylor and many others. So this is about one goal, and there's no reason to believe that this finding would not generalize to multiple savings goals at once. Uh, so, so, so while this may be the case, what is not clear is how can people do this when they have multiple savings goals. So if I have multiple mental accounts, uh, it may not be very easy to keep track of money that's been allocated to all of these different mental accounts, right? So I have, let's say, a car money, I have um, kids education money, I have retirement money. But if it's all mixed up together, then it's going to be very, very hard to keep track of money that is meant for all these different purposes. uh, so what we conjecture is that these mental accounts, the creation of these mental accounts, uh, is more likely to be successful if it is accompanied by the physical separation of money. So it's not just enough to say that, okay, this money is meant for retirement savings and this money is meant for um, kids' education. It should also be physically separated. And there may be reasons why this would be the case. One is that it's just easier to keep track of it. The other could be that when I'm, let's say, withdrawing money for an emergency, if the kids' education money is also mixed in there, then I may be tempted to withdraw more. So all of those reasons that make it hard to save money, they may rear their head if I'm saving for different multiple goals in one place. So what we're basically conjecturing in this paper is that if I have multiple physically separated savings accounts, then it might be easier to save money. Uh, and one aside that I have, which I think might be interesting to this audience, is that this may be easier to implement on mobile money. So, for instance, I have this over here. So, if I'm doing multiple accounts on mobile money, one, it's logistically easier. So this is rupees. This is Indian currency. If I want to set aside like 25 rupees to my kids' education, I can just swipe, and that money is now sort of earmarked for my kids' education. And you can also sort of provide these kind of behavioral nudges and make it easier. So on mobile money, this can be done much more easily. But of course, we are not here yet. These kind of technologies, these are something that are being thought of. So this is mostly just a nice user interface, and this can sort of just be coded. But I don't think a lot of mobile money platforms are providing these kind of facilities yet. Uh, so, uh, so this was mostly an aside, but generally what we are saying is that if there are multiple physically separated savings accounts, then it may be easier to save money. And this has precedent. So I have this quote from which is by this person Alice Bradley from 1923. So this is from, let's say, from basically a women's magazine from like 100 years ago, which is basically talking about some woman who had different cans. So 8 little cans, and one for grocery, one for gas, one for laundry, one for rent, and so on and so forth. And she had just physically separated savings cans for each of these accounts. So there's definitely precedent for doing something like this. What is not known is that will doing something like this actually increase savings? So this is something we're simply conjecturing. There's no evidence that a physical separation would actually make it easier for people to save money. We're saying that this is something worth testing. And all of this we are saying against the backdrop of people having low financial access. So basically, we're saying the reality is that people don't even have one savings account. So in the Malawian context where the study is set, about only a third of the adults had an account at a formal financial institution, and that includes mobile money. So only a third of all adults have an account, uh, have one account, and we're now saying that, okay, we should give people multiple accounts, and that would make it easier to save money. So that's sort of the background, that people have low financial access, they have multiple savings needs, and we sort of want to make it easier to save by providing them with multiple accounts, and we have to do it in the low financial access environment. So that's sort of the background. And what we do in this paper is, so this is a randomized controlled trial with 801 micro entrepreneurs in Blantire, Malawi. So 801 was our sample, but after attrition, 761 is what we have. So the results that I'll present today are based on data for 761 micro entrepreneurs in the city of Blantire. So we had several treatment groups, and what varied across these treatment groups is the modality of the accounts. So we give two types of accounts. We either give accounts in simple lock boxes, so a very rudimentary technology, we're giving people a box, or we gave these accounts via mobile money. So, so it's almost like two ends of the spectrum. On one end, you have mobile money, you have a simple box, a small box that, it's like not very different from a kid's piggy bank. So that's one end of the spectrum, and the other end we have mobile money, which is sort of like a sophisticated way of saving money. So that's new technology. So we have these two different types of accounts that we gave to people. And our hypothesis largely is about single versus multiple accounts. So that's where we started, that some people get only one account, and that's where they have to save. Some people will get multiple accounts. So they'll get two mobile money accounts, or they'll get two boxes. And we'll see if those with two boxes actually do end up saving more. So these are the other two main variants on the treatment. Did you get a box, or did you get mobile money? And given that you got one of these, did you get a single account, or did you get multiple accounts? And of course, we had a control group. So that's our basic treatment. In addition, and we'll present evidence on this. And one of the main contributions that we make is that we actually have a very, very carefully and precisely done data collection exercise. And so one problem that papers in this literature often face is that, when you're talking about my daily transactions, let's say I'm a small entrepreneur, let's say I run a food stall. There's a lot of money that comes in every day, and these are small bills, a lot of money that goes out every day. And if you do a survey with me at the end of 6 months, my answers might not be very precise. So what's really required is very high frequency data collection. So this is what was behind the diary studies. And South Africa was one of the sites for the diary studies, which are part of the portfolios of the poor data effort. So what we did was that we wanted to do something like this. We actually wanted a daily record of people's minutest financial transactions. So I was spending, 10 Malawian kwacha. If someone was spending 10 Malawian kwacha, we wanted to know that. So we had initially planned on doing written logs, but eventually we changed that idea. We gave all respondents cell phones because that sort of also went well with our mobile money treatment. So all respondents were given cell phones, and half of the sample was called once or twice per week to measure outcomes at high frequency. So that we could get these minute financial details for our respondents. But we did this only for half the sample because there were concerns that doing such high frequency data collection may also be a treatment. So for half the sample, we did this high frequency phone survey. I'm going to call it HFPS. And for the full sample, we did a regular survey. We did this twice during our 8-month study period. So that was a more conventional survey. And the reason we did this is because we wanted to study the effect of surveying itself. Okay, so that's what the paper is about. And of course, there are several strands of the literature that we contribute to. So we are related to a very big literature on just the effect of providing savings products to the poor. So there are many notable papers in this literature. So my co-author has several of them. So these papers, so a lot of them are set in Kenya. So Dupa and Robinson, Dupa et al. 2018. Then this paper, Dupa et al. 2019. This is set in 3 countries. Malawi is one of them. Prina 2015 set in Nepal. So a lot of these countries giving savings accounts to people. What's different about our study is that one, the take up of the savings product was just higher in our study. And I'll talk a little bit about why that might be. And the second is, as I was just now mentioning, that our phone survey actually allowed us to get a lot of data. So we actually have many observations for the same outcome. Let's say if I'm asking, if the question is, how much is your how much inventory did you buy? So if in a conventional survey, you let's say do a baseline, a midline, and an end line, then you will have 3 data points on how much inventory someone bought, because you will ask for, let's say, the last week or the last month. Since we were doing a lot of data collection at high frequency, then basically for every week we know how much inventory someone got. So one, our data is less noisy, but more importantly, we have a lot of statistical power to actually measure some of these things. Um, so that's the one literature we contribute to. Just what is the effect of providing savings products? But the key innovation we make is that we are what we studied is what is the effect of providing an incremental account, right? Or a second account, what is the additional effect of that? So usually these studies, the existing studies in the literature, they are about, one account or nothing. So the control group gets nothing and the treatment group gets one account. And that can confound men, that can and if you find effects, there can be many different reasons why those effects would exist. There could be a mental accounting effect. That could also be a security effect, that I now finally have a safe place to save my money, and that's why my savings went up. But when you're giving people 2 accounts or 3 accounts, the security pathway is not that important. When you're comparing people who got 1 account with people who got 2 accounts, then the security pathway is not really that important, because those who got 1 account, they also have security already. They do have a safe place to save money. So the additional savings, if there are any from the second account, they're not coming about because of the safekeeping afforded by these accounts. They're coming because of these other channels, that there is a new place to save money, that mental accounting is facilitated by this second place. And the final literature that we contribute to is on the impact of mobile money. So that's a somewhat nascent literature, although rapidly growing. Not as fast as mobile money itself, but it's a fast-growing literature. And this has typically been harder to study with the randomized design. And the reason is that it's basically just hard to randomize mobile money, right? And even if you were to do that, mobile money will not be used if other people are not using it. But if other people are using mobile money, then the control group can also get mobile money themselves. So this has been hard to do in a randomized design. So there are many papers who do it using difference in difference setup. So these are the sort of the seminal papers by Jack and Suri. There's some papers who take the base mobile money product and add like savings or payroll or credit, those kind of things on top of existing mobile money. And then there are a bunch of RCTs recently. So our paper sits in this literature also, where we're looking at the impact of mobile money. And specifically, we're looking at the savings impact of mobile money. So a lot of this literature has talked about the uh, sort of the informal insurance impact of mobile money, having access to interpersonal transfers. But we are also going to say something about the savings effect of mobile money. All right. So this was a brief introduction. I'm quickly going to talk about the experimental context and design and take you over the results. But before that, I should check if there are any questions.
Feel free to ask questions if there are any, please. I guess we have questions towards the end then.
Okay, great. All right. Okay. All right. What's the context? So, this experiment takes in Blantire, Malawi. So, I'm guessing some of you might be familiar with the context. Blantire is one of the two biggest cities in Malawi. Some say it is the commercial capital of Malawi. Lilongwe is the political capital. There are about 1 million people who live in Malawi. What's interesting, I'm sorry, 1 million people who live in Blantire, not in Malawi. And what's interesting about Blantire is that even though it's a major city, uh, the outskirts of the city are fairly rural. Now you move just slightly outside of the city center, and it's fairly rural. So that's sort of a mixed context that people are actually farming in what we think of as an urban area, and our results. And this is sort of important for our findings that we'll see that there is a switch towards farming. And also the other larger context about Malawi is important. That of course it is one of the poorest country in the world. It is so it's ranked 223 out of 229 on GDP per capita, and there's limited financial access. So in the 2017 Findex, 34% of adults reported having a formal financial account. So this is either at a bank or with a telco, or a mobile money account, and this is the lowest in the region. So in East and South Africa, Southern Africa region, uh, every other country has higher levels of financial inclusion. So these range between 42% for Mozambique and 82% for Kenya. So this is a context of poverty and low financial access, and within that we are basically working with micro entrepreneurs in an urban area. Okay. Uh, so so then to talk a little bit about our sampling. So I won't go into too much detail in the interest of time. The only thing that I really want to say about the sample is that we actually have a representative sample of micro entrepreneurs in the city. So this wasn't a convenient sample that we chose one market in the city and then we randomly picked people. Uh, what we actually did was that we worked with a map of the entire city that we got from the census. And from so the city is divided into 392 enumeration areas, out of which we randomly selected 77. So these were spread all over the city. And in each of these, we counted all businesses. So we counted 9,848 small businesses in these enumeration areas. Uh, and in those enumeration areas which had more than 100 businesses, we censused about 40% of the businesses. And those who had less than 100 businesses, we actually did a census with every single business in that enumeration area. So we counted about 10,000 businesses. We did a census with about 3,000. And after having done all this, we identified a sampling frame of nearly 2,000 businesses. So we eliminated a number of businesses. So, for instance, those where the owner was illiterate, we didn't sample those businesses because our plan had been to have them maintain a written log of their daily transactions. So an illiterate person could not do that. Uh, those who had a poor eyesight for the same reason. Then those whose business was that of a mobile money agent, those also we dropped because of our mobile money treatment and so on. So we eventually had 2,000 businesses and we sampled 801 from this list. So this is our sample of 801. And to this sample, we gave two different treatments, as I was mentioning. So some people, basically both the treatment groups got savings accounts. Uh, some of these people got boxes. So these are not very fancy boxes. This is basically the box that people got. So this is literally a piggy bank. So a box with a lock and a key. That's what we gave to people. Okay. All right. So yeah, so these are the kind of boxes we gave. Um, and a lot of people in our group, actually in our treatment group, already had boxes. So about a fourth already had boxes, but those were quite primitive. So they couldn't be locked. Some of them were made of cardboard. So our boxes were definitely an improvement over what they got. And then we had, within the box treatment, we had two sub treatments. We either gave them a single box, and the single box in all cases was the silver box. Some people got two boxes, in which case they would get a silver box and a brown box. And some people got three boxes, in which case they would get a silver box, a brown box, and a black box. So these are the three boxes that people got. All right, so this was our treatment, this box treatment. The other type of savings account that people got was mobile money.
Sorry, I have
So
a
these,
question.
yes.
Did you explain to people why you give 2 or 3 boxes, or that was just given without explanation?
Uh, so we encouraged them to use the boxes for saving, but they were free to do what they pleased with the boxes. So they were, of course, they were not beholden to use them for saving.
All right, so they were not told that one box is for this kind of savings and another one for something else.
No, no, no. We just
All
said
right.
that we asked them what their savings goals were, and we said that we encourage you to use these boxes to save towards your goals. But we did not say that you must save for, let's say, your kids' education in this box. It was entirely up to them what they were going to do with the boxes.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Uh, so, okay. So the second treatment was mobile money. So these were commercial mobile money accounts. They were as is. So you could go to, let's say, a mobile money kiosk, and the kind of mobile money account you would sign up for. That's exactly what we gave to our respondents. So these were with Airtel, which is the leading mobile money provider in Malawi. So this was not some obscure company with a limited network and people won't want to use it. They have the largest market share in the country. Here also we randomized the number of accounts. And so some people got one account versus some got two. So one mobile money account versus two mobile money accounts. Uh, the issue, though, that we faced is that basically the identity of a mobile money account is the same as the phone number. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have one SIM card, then only one mobile money account can sit on that SIM card. You can't have a partition SIM card. You can't have two or three mobile money accounts on the same SIM card. So if someone needs to use multiple mobile money accounts, they basically need to have multiple SIM cards. So this, so we weren't quite sure how to provide this. Uh, so what we did was that in the phones that we gave to all respondents, we gave all of them dual SIM phones. So these were feature phones that had two slots for two different SIMs. And we basically said, encourage respondents to, switch between the two SIMs if they wanted to use the two mobile money accounts. Uh, so what we ultimately found out was that this was too onerous for people. That we're basically asking them to switch between two different numbers to access two different accounts. So for all practical purposes, our two mobile money account treatment failed. So there was just one treatment. So the mobile money treatment should really be thought of as one treatment, that we gave them a mobile money treatment. The two accounts did not work. So basically, we gave people mobile money. And so, as I was saying, this was as is commercial mobile money. The one difference that it did have is that we reimbursed all withdrawal fees for the duration of the project. So, I'm sure you're all familiar with mobile money since you're in South Africa. But basically, every time you withdraw money, a percentage of that withdrawal is withheld as a withdrawal fees. So this is the schedule for Malawi. So essentially, between if you're withdrawing between 7 cents and 72 cents, the fee will be 3 cents. So basically, if you're at the lower end of this range, so if you're withdrawing 7 cents, you're paying nearly 50% as fees. If you're withdrawing 72 cents, then you're paying 5% as fees. And similarly in for all of these ranges, that the fee is fixed within each range, and if you are towards the lower end of the range, then you're paying a much higher, about 10% as fees, and if you are towards the higher end, then you're paying about 3 to 4% as fees. uh, so these withdrawal fees we actually withdrew. We actually waived for the duration of the project. So the project ran from July 2017 to May of 2018. So for this 8-month period, um, all fees were waived. Uh, and one thing worth mentioning is that they were not technically waived, because it was not possible for Airtel to actually waive them for some accounts. So people had to pay the fees, but at the end of each week, we would actually reimburse the fees that each account had paid by getting data from the back end, and we would uh, sort of reimburse these fees to people through a batch process. Um, Okay, and a final thing we did was that we actually trained people on how to use mobile money. So what we discovered during pilot work is that even though a lot of people had mobile money, so it turned, I'll just show you that nearly 50% of the people actually had mobile money at baseline. People didn't have a lot of knowledge about how to use it, so they weren't very familiar with what were the fees, how to access the menu. So they just had mobile money. So we actually trained people, and the mobile money agent, when someone signs up, they're actually supposed to provide this training, but this was not happening with a lot of frequency, or this was not happening. This was not being done well. So we provided this training. Um,
Can I, do you mind if I just ask quickly, Shilpa, we're actually working on a financial inclusion project in Malawi for the Malawian government, and there's some people on the call from the government you may be pleased to hear. But I just wanted to check with you with regards to those withdrawal fees. Were they waived sort of because you realized that people weren't really using the mobile money accounts at some point, or had you decided right from the start that you were going to waive these fees?
So that's a good question. It was mostly an encouragement design, that we wanted to encourage people to use mobile money for saving. So that's why we did it. Uh, uh, yeah, and mostly to get them used to saving money and so on. Uh, but actually, it's not clear to us now that we see the results whether fees are such a big deterrent. Um, whether they would choose not to use it if the fees are there, because what we see later on, I'll show you the trend, or maybe I can show it right now. No, it's too far down my slides. So I'll show it to you later, that when the fees came back, usage dipped uh, for a very short period of time, and then it was back to where it used to be. So we are not sure if fees are such a big deterrent, or maybe they are when you're not familiar with the product, but once you get used to it, then these are maybe not. such a big difference. So, but we did it purely as an encouragement design. We did not know if that's what's prevented people from using it. Okay. All right. So the we also had the survey frequency treatment. So this is something that I mentioned earlier, that some people were surveyed at a high frequency. Half of our sample was surveyed at a high frequency. We would call them once or twice a week and ask them a lot of questions about, their sales, purchases, revenues, profits, inventory, labor supply, transfers, and so on. So we did that at high frequency for half the sample. So even half of the control group was randomized into the high frequency survey group, and the other half was surveyed only 3 times during the entire 8 or 9 months. Okay. So yeah, so these are the main surveys. The baseline survey, this was the standard survey. The high frequency phone surveys, where people were called once or twice a week. Monitoring surveys. So this is our standard, basically midline and endline. So we did the midline in January 2018 and March 2018. So these are our big surveys. We also have all the administrative data for the mobile money accounts from Airtel. So this is for the duration of the project as well as for 15 months after. So we have a data till like September of 2019. This project ended in May of 2018. We did an unannounced logbox check for the box group. So we just randomly showed up to their business and asked to inspect their log boxes so that we can actually get sort of an objective measure of how much balance they have. So we did that once during the survey period. So that's not a very good measure, but we did it once. And then recently in September 2019, we did a small long-term follow-up with 200 respondents, in which we basically just called them and asked them if they're still using the account and how much balance that they have. So we don't have a lot of information, but we got some measures of a long-term usage. Okay. So briefly, this is the experimental design. Then this is our full sample, 801 people who were randomized into 3 groups: boxes, mobile money accounts, and control. Then boxes and mobile money were further randomized into into getting one account or multiple accounts. So one mobile money, multiple mobile money. And then all of the groups were randomized into, excuse me, excuse me, were randomized into a high frequency survey group and a non-high frequency survey group. So that is our entire experimental design. Okay, excuse me. All right. So some summary statistics. In the interest of time, I won't spend a lot of time on it. I'll just basically say that everything is balanced. And at baseline, we actually do have 56% of the people who did have mobile money accounts already, but not a lot of people knew how to use them. And the average distance from the mobile money agent was 11 minutes. Okay. All right. So now to talk about the results. So the first main thing that I want to show you is take up. So this is essentially a cumulative density function of deposits from our high frequency phone survey, where we would actually ask people how much money they deposited. So the green one here is for boxes. The blue one is for mobile money. And so the light color, so the light green one here and the light blue one here, is for the single account treatment, so one box and one mobile money. And the dark green here is for multiple boxes. The dark blue here is for multiple mobile money. So as you can see here, so multiple boxes were very good at very good at increasing deposits. So for instance, in the CDF, you can see that basically let's say 60% of the single box group was, let's say, below this $50 deposit threshold, but only 40% of the multiple box group was. So the multiple boxes successfully increase savings, and also statistically significantly. I'll show you. Mobile money, as I was mentioning, the treatment basically was logistic. We found that logistically it did not work out. People did not want to use uh, multiple mobile money accounts. In fact, we have some anecdotal evidence which suggests that people actually found it so cumbersome when we explained how to use multiple mobile money accounts to them that they perhaps were discouraged from using mobile money at all. So the mobile money, single versus multiple, we basically find hardly any difference in the deposits being made. So this is a measure from our surveys. Uh, this is a density function using objective measures. So if there's some concerns that in the surveys, so this is surveys again, I went back a slide, that in the surveys people may misreport or there may be some bias. So in order to head off those concerns, I'm now showing objective measures. So this is from the administrative data of Airtel for mobile money. And for uh, the boxes, this is not deposits, this is balances that we observed when we visited the respondents um, during the logbox check. And this is sort of less good in the sense that balances are not the same as deposits. So if I deposited a lot of money, but then I withdrew it just before the balance check happened because I was saving for a purpose, and that reason had come up, that need had come up, and I would withdraw the money. But so the objective measures are less good, but overall there is some evidence that in the that multiple boxes did help people save more. Okay. We also have some data on long-term usage, but I'm nearing 45 minutes, so I'll skip this. I'll just summarize this by saying that at 18 months out, people were still using the boxes as well as mobile money. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about treatment effects. So this is essentially again the deposits, but now in a regression that and so this is uh, so I'm basically going to show four groups: one log box, multiple log boxes, one mobile money, multiple mobile money, all relative to control. Uh, so what I have in the first 5 columns is the first stage, which is whether there were any deposits into the experimental account. And then I'm going to look at whether this led to any changes for in other places where I saved money. So for all the four treatments, column 1 tells us that there were deposits into statistically significant increase in the deposits into experimental accounts. So there was take up. So this is what I showed earlier. And this columns 2 to 5 is my first stage. So this is basically saying this is a dummy for if there was a deposit in any lockbox, not just the lockbox that we provided, but did people make any deposit in a lockbox? And column 4 tells us if there was any deposit into a mobile money account, not necessarily the mobile money account that we provided, any mobile money account. And you can see that for the log boxes, so there is a strong first stage here. So so there basically one log box increases the likelihood of a deposit into any log box by 49 percentage points. Multiple log boxes increase it by 62 percentage points. And on the mobile money side, single mobile money increases this by 18 percentage points, multiple mobile money by 14 percentage points, which so there's definitely a robust and strong first stage that people are more likely to use uh, that kind of savings device to save money, which is pretty remarkable, right? So, like for instance, if you think of mobile money, so mobile money existed. You know, you could actually sign up for a mobile money account with any agent. The average person lives only 10, 11 minutes away from a mobile money agent, and yet we signed them up and 56% of them already do have mobile money, and we sign them up for these mobile money accounts, and there is this uh, 18 and 14 percentage point increase in making a deposit into mobile money. And total mobile money deposits also went up. And then if we look at deposits into other saving sources, so some of it is crowd out. So boxes crowd out cash at home. So if I'm putting cash under the mattress, that is probably going to happen less often, and some this is going to go in boxes. Similarly, there's a negative effect on other savings places too. So all of these together suggest that total deposits did not really change. Total savings did not change. Mostly, it was just a reallocation of savings from one type of saving source to another, except in the case of multiple lockboxes. So we robustly find, so these results are from the high frequency phone survey. If I show you the results from the um, monitoring service, that also shows the same thing, that for multiple log boxes, actually there's evidence that suggests that total savings went up because of the treatment. So multiple log boxes were successful at doing this. Okay, and so this is sort of the last table that I want to show you before I sort of move to the discussion, that beyond savings, so savings are interesting, but perhaps not that remarkable in their own right. What is interesting is if they changed downstream outcomes. So if business outcomes changed, that's something that we're interested in. So what we find, and this is, I'm sorry, what we find is that there is some evidence that suggests that people, when they're giving these savings devices, they work less in their main business, which which is slightly counterintuitive. They work less in their main business, and they actually work more on their farm. Right? So a lot of these people, they already have farms, even though they are urban micro entrepreneurs, but they do have farmland. So they work more on their farm, sorry, which we sort of interpret as saying that when that for a lot of these people, the businesses that they work in, they're basically sort of helping them tide over a subsistence constraint, that they're so poor, they basically need money to get through day-to-day expenses. They need to be earning money. They need to be generating cash flows to be getting through day-to-day expenses. uh, so that's why they are working in their main business. They're working in a business instead of farming, because farming income is lumpy, so you're not going to get it every day. And they don't have savings devices. So they don't have savings devices. So when I sell output from my farm, I'm not able to save it. So in order to then meet my cash needs, I need to run this business. But we actually gave them savings devices. So people reallocated their labor supply from their business to their farm. So that's how we are interpreting it. The other other possible potential interpretation here is that they were actually maybe able to make investments in the farm, let's say buy tools or something, so that the marginal product of labor on the farm went up. So that's an alternative interpretation. We cannot rule that out. but our preferred explanation is that this is because the business is to sort of meet subsistence needs, but savings devices help them save money so that they can actually work on their farm. Uh, Another interesting finding that we have, just sort of something we hadn't anticipated, we found this in the monitoring survey, is that when we give these accounts to people, they're actually more likely to give credit to customers. So basically, they're making sales and credit to their customers in their main business. Uh, we're not quite sure what to make of this. I don't know. We don't really have a stand on whether credit to customers is good or bad. It could be good if it helps people expand the scale of business, but ultimately that would depend, I suppose, on whether you're able to recover the money when you're selling to people on credit. But this is a finding that's very consistent across all treatment groups, that there is an increase in credit to customers. Okay. All right. And this final thing that I want to show, which we actually don't find effects in it, but I think it's very important to show since this is a paper about mobile money, is that we do not really find an effect on interpersonal transfer. So this is the first four columns are for the high frequency phone survey. The next columns 5 through 8 are for the monitoring survey. So we have whether someone received a transfer, the value of that transfer, gave a transfer, the value of that transfer for all the four treatment groups. And we don't really find an effect on the likelihood of receiving or making a transfer, or on the sums involved, even one for the mobile money groups, which is pretty remarkable because most of the literature on mobile money has basically focused on how mobile money enables people to make more transfers by decreasing the cost of making transfers. So this we thought was pretty remarkable, and sort of I'm going to maybe put this into perspective in the discussion. So I'm going to quickly discuss my findings and conclude since I'm almost out of time anyway. Uh, and as I promised, that the discussion will largely focus on mobile money because I realize that's the interest area for the group. Uh, and so the first thing I really want to talk about is what did people use the accounts for? So as we were just saying, most of the existing literature in mobile money has focused on the effect of interpersonal transfers. That's sort of the seminal literature on mobile money, but that does not seem to be the dominant explanation. So we find some evidence of giving transfers, none of receiving. Basically, transfers are not what's going on. We did some debriefing surveys with the respondents at the end, and 83% said that they used the account for savings. 12% said that they used it for storing money temporarily. So savings is what people used the mobile money accounts for, not for making, not for transferring money. And this is also borne out by the Airtel transactions data. So in 8 months, the average respondent saved about $100, but transferred only about $10 and also made transaction about 10. So much more extensively and intensively used for savings than for making transfers. Uh, and uh, and this, as I was saying, this is in sharp contrast to the earlier literature. And why is that? So we have two explanations. There may be others, which we may not have thought of. The first one is on the payment side, at least, there isn't a lot of infrastructure to accept mobile money payment. So I can't walk into a store and say that I'm going to buy my grocery using mobile money. So that's one, but that still does not explain why it wasn't used for transfers. And our explanation for that is basically that the intervention was sort of partial equilibrium in nature. And what I mean is that when you look at these large definitive studies that rely on, let's say, the rollout of mobile money, or the sort of the intensity of mobile money in different geographies, they are sort of, they're talking about the spread of mobile money through a population. So I have mobile money, my friend has mobile money, my family has mobile money, and whether we are transferring money with we're transferring money to each other. But our intervention, we basically like picked out respondents and we gave mobile money to them. We gave mobile money accounts to them. But we did not really do anything to increase the penetration of mobile money amongst their risk sharing network. So just because I have mobile money, that does not necessarily mean that anyone who is in my informal insurance network also has mobile money. So it's possible that, let's say, their kid is sick. Let's say my brother's kid is sick, and I have mobile money, but unless and until my brother also has mobile money, I can't really transfer money. So that sort of really lowers the efficacy of mobile money in this partial equilibrium setup, in terms of enhancing risk coping abilities, because risk sharing partners do not have mobile money, and even if they have it, they may not necessarily have it on Airtel, which was our partner for this study, and interoperability was not allowed. So that could be one reason for why we find effects largely on the savings side, and we don't find anything on the transfer side. Uh, the other reason why people used it for savings is that maybe the withdrawal fees waiver did something. That normally people are very loath to actually save their money in mobile money, because they know when they want to withdraw it, they would have to pay a withdrawal fees. So that could be one. One answer to that is, well, the fees are not that big. They're only about 5%. So, given that we know how hard it is to save money, and that people are actually willing to pay in order to save safely through, commitment devices and so on. So it does not seem very large, but we don't know. People could be price sensitive. But we looked at what happened to withdrawals and deposits and withdrawals, and it's hard to really say what's going on. So this dashed black line here is where the last reimbursement was made, and the blue series is the deposits, the red is withdrawals, and we do observe that just before the last reimbursement is made, there is an uptick in withdrawals. And after we stop reimbursing withdrawal fees, usage dips, but only for a brief period of time, only for about 2 weeks. After that, it sort of goes back to where the level where it was, or maybe slightly lower than before. So please ignore this peak. There was some data that was misclassified that came from Airtel, but everything else seems to sort of be at the same level, maybe slightly lower. So our data is really not equipped to say whether ultimately withdrawal fees had a role to play. So what really needs to happen is a study that does different levels of withdrawal fee reimbursement to actually get at the impact of withdrawal fees. So this is sort of related to your question, Ryan, that why did withdrawal fees why did we waive off withdrawal fees? We did it to encourage usage, but ultimately we don't know whether that encouraged usage. It's hard to say. Then we also had these other components in our study. So we did give people training on how to use mobile money. We did set goals, and we encouraged people to save money for their goals. So maybe these had an impact, and that's why mobile money was used more for savings. But ultimately, all of these can't be disentangled. It was sort of this packaged intervention. All right, so then in conclusion, so we basically have three main findings from this paper. The first one is about having this physically separated savings place, which we did in boxes as well as in mobile money. And so for boxes, we do find that having two savings accounts does increase savings. So it seems that can be a cost effective way of helping people save. And that has implications for the design of mobile money. So this is essentially the user interface I was showing you earlier, that, if like mobile money account can just be partitioned and like help people allocate money to different purposes, that seems like something that might be a very cost effective way of helping people save money. We do find robust demand for mobile money as a savings vehicle. Uh, we do want to, though, admit that this might be unique to Malawi because banking access there is particularly limited. We don't know if these will replicate outside uh, of Malawi or outside of contexts where banking access is better. Uh, and we also do find these transformative effects of simple savings accounts. So, for instance, people are working less and working more on farming. So that's sort of an artifact of basically we just have really good data that we can actually capture these effects. But it does seem that giving people savings accounts can actually transform their lives. This may also be something uh, that's unique to Malawi because banking access is really poor there. So maybe in other places the impacts won't be as large, but at least in this context, we do find that giving people savings accounts has a large impact on their lives. All right. Thank you. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, Shilpa, for a very interesting presentation. And we are a bit over time, but we can open the floor for any questions. Does anybody want to ask a question?
I have a question if no one else has anything, but I mean, I've already asked one, so I'm not sure if someone else.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So I just wanted to check. So actually, two things. So was Airtel able to provide you with any indication of usage of USSD services for agriculture? So I just saw one of your results was that people saving more seem to be undertaking sort of more farming activities, and I thought that might be interesting. They may have that information. Apparently, there are these USSD sort of pricing apps like farm price apps and stuff in Malawi. So that was the one thing. And then the second thing is also actually just by way of extension potentially is just that I think in 2019 Malawi, the mobile operators in Malawi started to pay interest. So I was thinking it would be very interesting to see like whether if you carried on tracking your population, whether they actually increased the use of mobile money accounts for savings in response to this sort of interest that's been added more recently. But thanks otherwise for the paper. It was great, and as I said, we've cited it in our work for Malawi. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So, so on the USSD for agricultural activities, uh, we didn't ask for this data. So what Airtel provided us with is data on that basically cash related activities. So deposits, withdrawals, payments, and transfers and recharges. That's all they provide. That's all the information they provided us with. But that's very interesting. It would be worth finding out if they could also provide us with USSD for agricultural activities. But I would think that, let's say, if I'm accessing extension using the USSD menu, that's not really a mobile money uh, function, but that's more of just my phone. Like someone without mobile money could also do it. But that notwithstanding, that's something that's interesting. I will find out. But right now we don't have that data. Is the answer to your question? uh, the the interest on deposits, uh, so and whether that led to an uptick in deposits. I don't know the answer to this either. So this is also something we should find out. So of course, uh, we can only do this with people who we gave mobile money accounts to. But within the treatment, we should be able to see when the interest started being given and whether there was, so more like an event study. So I actually did not know this, that they started giving interest. So I'll find, I mean, if you know off the top of your head when they started giving interest, otherwise I can look it up.
January. So actually, they started from January 2019, but the first payment was in December 2019. So very, very recently. But, you know.
I see. Okay. Oh, I see. So we have data only till September 2019. But if people were aware that they're going to get interest starting January 2019, they may still have increased usage, even though the payments had not been made. So that's interesting. I'll look at both of them. Thank you. Thanks for your question.
Are there any other questions? Feel free to ask. Okay, I also have a question. So your results kind of indicate also that there's some role of education, like financial education, because you said you educated people how to use mobile money, and but the effects of traditional savings, they are clear, more clear than of mobile money, as I understand. Mm-hmm. So, and there are these technical issues that you cannot have two accounts without having two separate SIM cards and so on. So I wonder, like, whether there are incentives of the firms that provide the services to make things easier, like financial incentives, that they actually, by charging for withdrawals, mm-hmm. would want to implement solutions that would make people use more mobile money and make it easier to have different multiple savings than the single one. Is it what your result, I guess, indicates, right? Because people save more. So making technical solutions easier would mean there's more commission potentially, or so.
Yeah, I agree. So our results do suggest that perhaps resolving some of these technical challenges that allow people to save for multiple purposes easily on the same SIM card, or having multiple accounts in the same SIM card, would actually encourage savings. But I guess that's a technical design issue. Hopefully, as we disseminate our study, maybe this is something that can sort of get out. But to your point about education, so we did provide training on how to use accounts. Now, one drawback of our study is that while we provided this training, we provided it to everyone. So essentially, our intervention ended up being this package where we're giving people mobile money, we're giving them a withdrawal fee waiver, we are providing them with training, we are sort of encouraging them to save. And the results that we're seeing for the mobile money treatment is essentially sort of this composite of all these four treatments. So I don't know how much is the training effect, but what we do know from our baseline work is that people have, even though mobile money is seemingly popular here, 56% of the people have mobile money accounts, many people are not really aware of all the features and fees and how to use it. So so there's certainly a role for training, but how much will that impact outcomes, we can't really say, because we can't disentangle the effects of these competing interventions that we provided. But in general, the literature shows that financial literacy type of interventions have limited efficacy.
Thank you. Just one more question. So I understand that these businesses are formal businesses. Are you able to look also at informal?
No, these are all informal. So they could be a mix of formal or informal. So it could be a small shop that pays taxes and is registered. It could also be a kiosk that's selling chapati. So it's both formal and informal. So the criteria that we had was not based on formality. That was based on that it should have it can have only one more employee in addition to the owner, or sorry, two more employees in addition to the owner. So either just the owner plus one, or owner plus two. So there could be formal or informal both. But that's interesting. Maybe we should look at if this
So,
was different based
so
on
indeed, my
formality.
question was whether there's any difference with this respect, especially because there's so much interest into informal sector.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if we actually have information on whether the business is formal, but if we do, then yeah, this would be worth looking at. Yeah.
Is there any other question that anybody would like to ask? I guess there are no questions, and we are a bit over time. So thank you
Yes,
very
I'm
much
sorry
again,
about that.
Shilpa, for interesting presentation. We're looking forward for this paper to be published. And as you said before, when we speak in person, you were saying that you come often to Malawi. So if it happens that you'll be able to come again, then maybe there'll be opportunity to meet in person in Johannesburg or elsewhere or in Cape Town. So please stay in touch, and hopefully we'll hear more about your research in the future.
Sure. Thank you very much to give me this opportunity to present. And yeah, I really hope to perhaps maybe give a seminar in person at a future date. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. David, too. Bye.
Bye.